Hello and welcome back to another session. Today's session is going to be part 2 of VPC series. In the last session, we saw about what is VPC, what are subnets, gateways, and how to set up VPC connections between various components. You can find the link of that video in the description if you like. In today's session, we will get into security aspects of VPC, how to secure a VPC, and what are the best practices. So let's get started. When it comes to security, AWS follows a shared responsibility model which applies to VPC as well. AWS is responsible for the global infrastructure. However, we are responsible for the content hosted in that infrastructure. So to protect your VPC, the two main things you could use are security groups and NACLs. Both are like virtual firewalls and acts at different levels. Another handy feature is VPC Flow Logs, which helps in tracking IP traffic and monitoring. Finally, we'll see the best practices when it comes to applying these security features to your VPCs. So security groups are virtual firewalls at the instance level, which is used to control the inbound and outbound traffic of an instance. You can attach a security group to an instance while launching it, and you can attach up to 5 security groups to an instance. Each VPC comes with a default security group, and you can add more as required. How the security group works is by adding specific rules to them which control the inbound and outbound traffic. These rules only allow traffic and it doesn't have any deny rules. So you can either allow inbound or outbound traffic. Unless you add a rule, instances that are attached to a security group cannot talk with each other. Security groups are stateful, meaning if you send a request from your instance, then the response traffic for that particular traffic is allowed automatically, regardless of the inbound rules. And same applies the other way. That is, if you receive some inbound traffic, then the responses to that particular traffic are allowed irrespective of the outbound rules. This is a quick example of how the inbound and outbound rules look like. First is the inbound rule, which allows inbound HTTP access from all IPv4 addresses. And second is an outbound rule, which allows all outbound IPv4 traffic as both the protocol and port are set to all. You can use various combinations of IP addresses and protocols and ports here. And the rules that are applied to the instances will be a union of all the rules from all the security groups which the instance is attached to. So if this is our VPC setup with two subnets and few instances within each subnet which are connected to an internet gateway through a router, our security groups will take their places here. It's directly connected to the instances and filters both the traffic in and out of those instances. So that was about security groups. Now moving on to NACL, that is Network Access Control List. This is also a virtual firewall. However, this one is at one level above, that is at the subnet level. You can add these NACLs to one or more subnets, but each subnet can have only one NACL and it acts as a layer of defense and filters traffic even before it reaches the security groups. Again, each VPC comes with a default NACL and you can modify it at any time. Each NACL can have a numbered list of rules which either allows or denies inbound and outbound traffic. And these rules are evaluated in order starting from the least number. We saw that the security groups are stateful, whereas NACLs are stateless, which means you have to have separate inbound and outbound rules. It doesn't automatically allow responses for allowed inbound traffic or vice versa. And this is a quick example of how a NACL rule looks like. First one is an inbound rule which allows inbound HTTP traffic from any IPv4 address. And the second one is an outbound rule which denies all HTTPS traffic from any IPv4 addresses. The rules are numbered and they start executing from 100. So let's see where NACL fits in our diagram. We have our subnets and security groups within them, and now the NACL lies on top of the subnet. So the traffic to and from the subnet is controlled by the NACL, which is then fed into the router, which routes them to the internet traffic or other components. So this table shows us the key differences between security groups and NACLs and should serve as a quick recap. So security group is a firewall at instance level, whereas NACL is at subnet level. As security group is at instance level, it has to be explicitly added to each instance at the time of instance creation or later in order for it to take effect. However, in case of NACLs, they are applied to all instances in a subnet to which the NACL is associated with. When it comes to rules, security groups evaluates all the rules before deciding whether to allow the traffic, and it supports only allow rules, whereas NACL evaluates the rules in order and supports both allow and deny rules. As we saw before, security groups is stateful, that is, when the traffic is sent out, then the response for that traffic is automatically allowed. However, in case of NACL, it's stateless, which means there should be an explicit rule added to receive the response and send out a message. So this wraps up things with security groups and NACL, leading us to the next topic in our list, which is VPC Flow Logs. VPC Flow Logs helps in capturing the traffic moving in and out of the network interfaces in your VPC. This data collected through these VPC Flow Logs can be published to S3 buckets or CloudWatch logs, which helps in better monitoring and troubleshooting. You can create flow logs for the entire VPC or a particular subnet or even a specific network interface and track the traffic separately. So this is how a sample flow log record looks like. It has the version, account ID where your VPC exists, network interface ID, the source and destination addresses followed by the source and destination ports, the protocol, number of packets, number of bytes, the start and end time of the particular record, the action which is associated with the traffic, which can be either accept or reject, and also the log status. So to wrap up the session, let's see some of the best practices to be followed to secure your VPC. Always go for a multi-availability zone setup where possible, as it ensures high availability. So split your subnets among availability zones in order to avoid single point of failure. Add the correct rules with minimum access required for your system to work in security groups and NACLs. Same thing applies to IAM policies. Always keep the least privileged access model in mind while assigning access to various components. It's also very important to set up logs and CloudWatch to monitor the traffic and troubleshoot in case of any issues. So that's it for today, guys. Hope you found it useful. In the next session, we will get into the AWS console and see how to build a VPC from scratch. So if you have any questions in this session, please let me know in the comments below. We'll see you soon in the next session. Thank you.